Hello, hello, hello. How are you all? I hope everybody had a good day. Gigi, you made me hungry with them oxtails. Let's see who we have in the building. We have our very own 50 Plus in the building, aka Gifty Plus. How are you, brother? I hope you are having a great day. How are you? How are you? Hope you're feeling well. We have Brayla J in the building. Brayla says hello. 50 says hello, Deb's glad tidings. Brayla J says hello, Deb, glad tidings. 50 says I shared you out. Thank you so much for that, brother. I appreciate you for that. 50 shouting out Brayla. Brayla says hello to everyone. Gigi says welcome story time to 50 plus. Brayla says I'm at work, so I won't be in the chat, but I'll be listening in. And she's saying hello to Gigi. Thank you for that, Brayla. If you're still listening in, I appreciate it. Gigi says welcome to story time to Brayla. 50 plus is shouting out Gigi. Hey, 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 we have Web Service Cafe in the building tonight. How are you, sis? So glad you could join me for story time tonight. Web Savvy shouting out Gigi and 50 plus. 50 plus is shouting back out at Web Savvy Cafe. I certainly appreciate you all joining me for story time tonight. We have our very own intellectual Edward Smart in the building tonight. How are you, Edward? So glad to see you. So glad you could join me tonight for story time. Edward says, hey, Deborah. I hope you had a great day, Edward. So glad to have you here with me in story time tonight. Edward says, welcome back. Thank you, Edward. I am still battling with this glucose. I finally got the numbers down under 200, but it's still pretty high. So it's coming down slowly, but I don't feel as bad. I still feel, you know, my energy's down, energy level's down, but I don't feel as bad as I had been feeling before. But it's coming down slowly. It's taken a while, which they told me it would, and they didn't want to rush it down too fast, they said, because it affects the brain, some swelling or something, they said. But it's coming down. It's still high, but it's coming down. It finally made it under 200. But thank you for welcoming me back, Edward. 50 shouting out Edward Smart says hello. We have our very own dancing diva, Miss Full Roller Sierra in the building. Says Deb glad tiding mods, GG's gluten-free lab, 50 plus in chat. Hey y'all. I'll be listening in once I get out the ads. Okay. Edward Smart's shouting out 50 plus. 50 plus is shouting out Miss Full Roller says hello. Web Savvy Cafe says hey there to Edward Smart and Miss Full Roller. And 50 plus says I am glad it is coming down. Yes, 50, thank you. Yeah, I am too. Because I mean, I felt horrible. I didn't know what was going on. You know, it had me making frequent trips to the bathroom. I didn't know what was going on. And that feeling, that weird feeling, I can't even describe that, you know, aside from the fatigue. I just felt horrible. Web Savvy says, I'm glad to hear you feeling better. Thank you, Web Savvy. Edward says, hey to Miss Full Roller Sierra. I'm going to go ahead and get started with our story. Hopefully everyone has made it out of the ad. If you haven't, just come on in, because I'd rather have you here in the live. Gigi says, welcome to Storytime to Edward Smart, Miss Full Roller, and Miss Full Roller Sierra, aka the Dancing Diva. Miss Full Roller, what season is this? I forgot, just that quick. What season is this now? I could never keep up with it. I know we're still in the same season, but I don't remember which one it was. Gigi's welcoming Web Savvy to Storytime. Says welcome to Storytime to Web Savvy. Can someone remind me what season we're in? I'm going to go ahead and get started with our story. Okay, so the last story we left off, hang on one second. Okay, so we left off with the crazy lady, Pam Money, aka Frugal Granny, kind of giving them the boot, so to speak, sending them through the secret passageway with no other instructions, and other than just telling them they need to head to the top of the tree, and she left the rest for them to figure out. And she went on about her business as if they were never there. And so he and his Expedition Greg and his dog Sky, the fluffy Shih Tzu, finally made their way through and found a trap door and made their way to the top of the tree, not knowing what else to expect on the journey. And they kind of just stood there, kind of befuddled, not knowing where they were headed next, what other encounters they were going to have on this journey. And they just said, he just looked at his dog and said, it's a great big world out there to travel and tour, and we just need to find the portal. So they are apparently looking for the next portal to continue on their journey. So here we go. Expedition Greg and his dog Sky, the fluffy Shih Tzu, crawled up out of the stairwell and shut the trap door behind them. After getting past the hurdle of making their way to the top of the tree, they looked around at their new surroundings, with Sky looking at him as if to say, "Where to next, Dad?" Expedition Greg and his dog Sky found themselves standing in the center of a circular room where the walls and ceilings were covered by a large patchwork quilt made by DiGo Crochet. There was a tall pole in the center of the room with a large light attached to share bright light. Suddenly the room began to move and the large light turned into a flame shooter. The quilted room began to rise upward towards the night sky. The shadows of the moon hit Expedition Greg and Sky's face as the room lifted off of the top of the tree. That's when Expedition Greg realized that he and Sky were inside a hot air balloon. Expedition Greg knew he had no control over where that hot air balloon would go, but that didn't bother him because he was an adventurer. He was super smiley because all he could do was think about RAD'S adventure, risky and dangerous. The basket of the balloon was large and thick enough that it shielded them from the cold night air up in the sky. Soon he and Sky were nestled up together. The cozy relaxation caused them to fall asleep pretty quickly, so they slept the entire night. That night, Expedition Greg dreamt of the night he and his mom took the stroll down to the waterfall. The glistening stream, bright stars, the mud, the gold, and his mother were all vivid in his mind. Up until then, he tried to block everything out of his mind. It was a very tearful send-off when his parents went away. It had been so long until everything after that was just a blur to him. The days that followed entailed him being ushered to some gathering place with his family and friends. At these gatherings, someone always had a story about a remarkable adventure they shared with Expedition Greg's parents. Apparently, he was too young to remember any of it. There was also a host of interesting people there with very interesting names, but they were all in cliques. According to Jeff, as told by Tina, there was a friendly black man there named Organic's Best Urban Gardener with extensive knowledge about plants. NiNi from Q&NiNi Vlogs was also there with her twin sister. Soldier Poet was there with ViiScott Speaks and the Maestro Speaks. Xtina Grubz was there with Mukbanging, Gelato. Plump Travelers was there with Shawn and KC on Vacay mode. Luxgranny Grace was there with Frugal Granny. Stephanie 50 and Climbing was there with Over 50 and Fantabulous and Getting My Life Together at 50. Jill's Comfort Zone was there with Stress Free Zone. CombatantMaggie was there with Anna's Antics. DLT Lawncare was there with Wild Bill Lawncare, Wild Man Bill Lawncare. Mama D Super was there with Mama Joan and Mama Ray Ray in the kitchen. Sizzles Diaries was there with Bubbles Diary. True Slayer Saying It was there with Denisesaywatsonmymind, McKay. Slim 2XZ Island was there with Island Reaction TV. Bunnie Bluebell Creations was there with GodsGirl Creations. Wolfman Redeemed was there with Wolfman Midnight. Eagles 2 was there with Tuber Chat. Seven Legs Fairy was there with Tinkerbell 83. The Information Man was there with Commentary with Latu. Alien World Aquatics was there with Garaba Aquatics. Sweet Pea was there with Simply a Sweetheart, and so many others. Everyone was all clicked up. The people at the gatherings were always so talkative and having conversations with Dee, a chatty woman who talked about any and everyone's business. She must have been from Chatty's world. Since she talked so much, I thought I could get information from her about my parents' whereabouts, Expedition Greg thought. But she just dismissed the conversation. The hot air balloon sailed over the Barrel Boy Woods just as Sunshine Peoples was coming up. Expedition Greg's dog, Sky the Fluffy Shih Tzu, signaled to him that he wanted to be picked up. They both stood there looking at the full view of everything around them. Suddenly, Expedition Greg looked up with a blank expression on his face. He found himself reflecting on the day his parents left. and when he was dropped off to his uncle's place. His voice was the first familiar voice he had heard in weeks. As his uncle, Black Bruce Wayne Jr., approached, he said, "This can't be my Expedition Greg." Expedition Greg's uncle greeted him with a big hug. His uncle, Black Bruce Wayne Jr., squeezed him so tight that all he could think about was his mother's embrace. After their meet and greet was done, Expedition Greg asked his uncle, Black Bruce Wayne Jr., where had his parents gone. His uncle, Black Bruce Wayne Jr., answered, "To travel and tour, but I don't know where they will be for sure, and neither do they." Hearing those words made Expedition Greg begin to cry. Saying, "I want to go home." His uncle, Black Bruce Wayne Jr., bent down until he was eye level with him and said, "I'm really sorry, son." This was Expedition Greg's harsh reality, but as painful as it was, he finally felt like someone was being truthful with him. So he wiped his tears and helped Uncle Black Bruce Wayne Jr. to gather his bags for them to head over to his uncle's place. As they walked off, his uncle said, as for me, my home is the sea." He too was an explorer. He said to Expedition Greg, "See, we're all on one lifestyle. Come, let me show you around my boat," he said. "It's called the Collector-holic because I go around collecting treasure." Expedition Greg spent the next several years traveling the world with his uncle Black Bruce Wayne Jr. At first, every port he and his uncle docked at, he would ask if anyone had seen or heard from his parents. Eventually, he stopped asking and focused his efforts on learning the ways of the sea from his uncle Black Bruce Wayne Jr. His uncle Black Bruce Wayne Jr. taught him the ways of the sea, how to clean the boat, how to repair a boat, how to navigate a boat, about new cultures and new foods, about accounting, trading, and negotiating in other countries. Expedition Greg's uncle Black Bruce Wayne Jr. showed him things his parents never bothered to show him when he traveled around the world with them. All he could say to his uncle was, "Uncle Black Bruce Wayne Jr., it appears to me you are living your best life." That's how he learned everything there was to learn about being a captain and an explorer. Once Expedition Greg came back to himself, he realized that the biggest lesson he had learned from his uncle Black Bruce Wayne Jr. was how to make any place his home. Looking out on the horizon, Expedition Greg caught a glimpse of something shiny. As they drifted closer, he realized it was the glare of Sunshine Peoples illuminating off the water. According to a map he had found on the floor of the vessel, it was Black Vannis, a beautiful body of water he had heard about that nobody had ever seen. Was this the portal, he thought to himself. As they cleared both the water and trees, they touched down onto the dirt floor. According to the map, the balloon had landed right on target. "Well, I guess this is our stop," Expedition Greg said to his dog, Sky, the fluffy Shih Tzu. He opened the door and they both stepped out onto the ground. "What do you think about this guy?" asked Expedition Greg, staring at their surroundings. Just up ahead, they spotted a large wall. He and Sky split up and walked along the base of the wall in opposite directions for a little while. Expedition Greg ran his hands along the panels of the wall in hopes to find the portal. Expedition Greg figured there must be something he's missing, hoping that there was a way in that he overlooked. When his dog skied a fluffy Shih Tzu past him on the other side, he was even more confused. They circled the wall again and again just to be certain they didn't miss anything. How are we supposed to get in, Scott asked Expedition Greg. And I'm going to stop our story right there. I'm going to end our story right there, and we will pick up with it on next week. Let me see who came in while I was reading our story, because I don't want to miss anybody. Okay, let's see. Okay, Web Savvy saying thank you to Gigi. 50 plus says Scorpio. Okay, so we're in the Scorpio season. Okay, it was smart shouting out. Gigi, Miss Food Roller says I'm in. Yay, thanks Gigi. We have Misha Lee in the building. How are you, sis? So glad that you were able to join us. She's throwing some love. Says, hey, Deborah. Miss Four Roller shouting out Edward Smart. Web Savvy Cafe says, hey, y'all. We have Luxgranny Grace in the building. Oh, it's so glad to see you. I don't know at what time you came in, but I hope you enjoyed your little cameo tonight. Says, I always enjoy your stories. You leave me speechless, darling. Hugs. Thank you. I'm so glad you made it in on the night that you were featured. We have Hummingbird in the building tonight. How are you, Hummingbird? Hummingbird says hello, Deborah. Hummingbird says hello to Web Savvy. And hi, chat. Hummingbird, I hope you had a chance to go back and look at a couple of stories you were featured in. Listen to a couple of stories you were featured in. Gigi's welcoming in Misha Lee and Hummingbird and Luxgranny Grace. Web Savvy saying hey there to Hummingbird. Misha Lee says thanks to Gigi. Gigi says you're certainly welcome to Misha Lee and says this is some crowd. Deborah's Glad Tidings. And we have Zero the Infinite in the building tonight. How are you? Says hey, Deborah Glad Tidings and greetings to everyone. So glad you could join us. We have Web Savvy saying hey to Brother Zero the Infinite and throwing up the power to the people sign. That's what it looks like. We have One Virtuous Woman in the building tonight. How are you, sis? She says blessings, sis Deborah. How are you? One Virtuous Woman, I hope you had an opportunity to listen to the stories that you were featured in as well. Zero the Infinite says hi to Web Savvy Cafe. Gigi says welcome to Storytime to Zero the Infinite and One Virtuous Woman. Zero the Infinite says hi to Gigi. One Virtuous Woman says thank you to Gigi. And Edward Smart says great story. Thank you so much, Edward Smart. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I didn't want to cancel story time, and so I was trying to limit the amount of time I was on tonight because I'm really feeling the fatigue. But I didn't want to miss story time. I already missed a couple of days, and I missed seeing you all, so I wanted to come in and continue some of our story. As you all know, this story has been going a while. For those of you who are new in here or hadn't been following, this story has been going since story 84. So if you want to miss the chapters that you missed to bring you up to speed, You can go back as far as 84, story 84 on up to the present to catch whatever it is that you missed. Miss Fuller is speaking to Zero to Infinite. Miss Web Savvy Cafe is speaking to one virtuous woman. She says hello, and one virtuous woman is shouting back at Web Savvy Cafe, and she says, praying for you, sis. The Lord is your strength. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the prayers of each and every one of you who has been standing in the gap and interceding on my behalf. Like I said, I'm feeling a lot better, but still trying to get that glucose level down so I can be 100% again. And so I guess these things take time, but at least I'm beginning to see some progress, because at first it didn't seem like it was coming down at all. So I appreciate each and every one of you standing in the gap for me and lifting me up in prayer. So at this time, I'm not gonna prolong the evening because I do want to get to bed. I appreciate each and every one of you coming to join me for story time. Always remember, until we meet again, may His peace be with you. Story time is every Monday, Wednesday, Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern time. If for some reason I can't make it to story time, I typically throw up the little brief message letting you all know that it's been canceled and when it will possibly resume. Thank you, Misha Lee. She says blessings to you. Thank you so much for that, sis. And always remember, I have a will to live. I will see you all at the next story time. I love you all, and good night.